Hello and welcome to my review of Saw 4. Now, Saw 4 is the final film, as of 2020. Well, is the final film of the original saga to be directed by Darren Lynn Bousman. Of course, Darren Lynn Bousman came back to direct the most recent installment that's now in US cinemas, Spiral from the Book of Saw, out in UK cinemas on May 17th. Don't forget to check it out. I will say that in every single fucking video, okay? Just understand that I will promote that film as much as humanly possible throughout this entire review series, alright? So leave me the fuck alone. Here, this is the last installment until Spiral to be directed by Darren Lynn Bousman. Obviously, it was the last installment to be directed by Bousman, for quite a while after this film came out. It gave us a lot of more interesting looks at certain parts of. It gave us more in-depth character looks at John Kramer and Jill Tuck, which I think was good. It showed us more insight of what happened directly after Jill lost the baby. It showed us, her losing the baby and stuff, and it was a great way to just keep John Kramer here, but even though he's dead in flashbacks, and I think it worked really well because it obviously showed, the vulnerability of the man after, and how he fell into a deep depression after he lost his son, and how that was one of the key factors in making him into, the Jigsaw killer in a way. So it's great to see those backstory moments. Again, the cast in these films is always really talented set of people. We also have the debut of two characters who are going to be an important role at least in the next installment, very much so, and some in 6 as well, but not as much, I think. And that is Special Agent Peter Strom, and Special Agents Peter Strom and Lindsay Perez. So they're introduced here as the FBI officers who are coming to start investigating the whole thing. Now, if you watch channels like Dead Meat and more specifically CZ's World, you'll know that the game that takes place in Saw 3 and the game that takes place in Saw 4 both take place at the same time. Hence why towards the end of Saw 4, when Strom is inside the Gideon meatpacking factory, we get archival footage or brand new footage we don't actually know of Angus McFadden as Jeff Denlin, because the bit he goes into is obviously the part of the building where the game from Saw 3 is taking place. The game with Amanda. Obviously, before Jigsaw died, he made these two games. The game with Riggs Trial, which had the victims, which had Detective Eric Matthews himself and Art Blank involved in it, as well as Rigg being the main player of that game. And then the Jeff's trial, Jeff Denlin's game, where involved him obviously being there himself on the deathbed with Amanda Young there and Lynn Denlin. Those two games he devised himself, and he left Hoffman to set up one Riggs trial, and then he himself set up so he left Hoffman to set up that game, and he set up the one that he's in. And so that's what happens there. And obviously we see the autopsy of John Kramer at the beginning of Saw 4, which is a great scene. This is the tape that he takes out at the end. He puts his mouth in Saw 3, and we see that then put in place here. And I love that the game here is Riggs trial, and I love this trial because it really does focus on a certain character trait of Rigg, who tries to save everyone. And Jigsaw tries to teach him that you can't save everyone. You just have to let events play out. And obviously, due to the fact that he didn't listen to Jigsaw, he resulted in the deaths of Eric Matthews. He was the one who essentially killed Eric Matthews, because if he had waited just 2 seconds and not opened the door, Eric Matthews, Art Blank, and to an extent Hoffman, but if you've seen the film, that's not the case. The Hoffman was never in any danger, but still. Then that he obviously caused the death of someone who he cared about, obviously. And at the beginning of this film, we see him investigating Kerry's angel trap from Saw 3, but we see them investigating it here. And as soon as the camera pans up to show Kerry, he goes straight in there. Despite all the officers around him tell him not to go through an unchecked door, and he does it still. So I love the fact that Jigsaw is testing on something that is generally his weakness, trying to save everyone. And it's brilliant, and I think it pays off. The game, like I said, I've just watching Saw 4, I generally think it is better than 3 personally, just because I feel like the twist is better. The game and its traps are definitely up and down. Traps here, we have the opening mausoleum trap. We have the hair puller. We have the body puller. We also have the it's not spikes, is it? The spike trap with the two classroom spikes. I'm going to call it the classroom spikes trap. And then obviously have the ice block trap as well. So traps that are not highlights of the series or well-known traps at all, but I still think I like the ice block trap is quite fun, and I do like the both puller traps are interesting, but trap wise I think Saw 3 has some far superior traps in terms of, I think the Pig Vat in Saw 3 and Pig Vat and Rack from Saw 3 are superior traps to any of the traps in Saw 4, although I do have to admit I do like the ice block trap, and that's quite a lot of that's my favourite trap from this movie is the ice block trap. But again, what I dislike about Saw 3 particularly is the structure of the story, and also the twist at the end is just not as appealing as the twist here. The twist obviously is that Hoffman is the extra accomplice, so that's fun. But yeah, again, the twist is brilliant. I do recommend you watch Cece's World and Dead Meat, specifically Cece's World, because he's great at doing the history of all the characters. He's done Hoffman, Amanda, John Kramer, Tappan Singh, Logan Nielsen. He's a brilliant channel. I highly recommend him. He's a much bigger channel than me, but I've just been binging his sort of content recently because I love me some Saw. And obviously Dead Meat with the Kill Count, brilliant channel. I watched. Fun fact though, if you give a shit, which I'm pretty sure no one does, while I'm editing the videos, after each Saw film, I'll have the kill count on in the background. I'll watch the kill count while I'm editing the videos because it's just a fun way to do it. And sometimes I'll do the things you missed from Cece's World as well. But yeah, if they're not age restricted, then I can't read them on my fucking Xbox. But yeah, Saw 4 is obviously the first one after the death of John Kramer, and I do think it's an enjoyable one. Nonetheless, I actually do think it is better than Saw 3, purely because I feel like the story here is much better. While the traps are less superior here, I do believe that the story, the plot, and obviously the final trap are much better than any of the traps. The story here in the final trap are definitely better than the traps from Saw 3. Like I said, I think the Rack and the Pig Vat are superior traps to any of the traps in this film, except for the ice block. But it's an enjoyable film. Again, it has that very Darren Lynn Bousman style with the colour palette and the art direction, and obviously the crazy editing. The original Saw films were known for a lot of things, including the crazy sped up editing. The first one only had that due to its budget constraints, and I'm sure the other ones just because that's what Darren Lynn Bousman likes to do. And if you watch the official clip they put out for Spiral, you'll see that fast-paced editing that was not present in Jigsaw has returned, which is an interesting thing. But I think there's another part of Saw 4 that's interesting to talk about that's also been in other movies, Saw movies, specifically the Darren Bousman films, but also in other ones, and that's the wacky as fuck transitions. In here, there's the one where Rig pushes the victim of the hair puller trap out the way and through a glass pane, and as she falls through the glass plane, it then immediately she falls through the glass plane into the police office, and then we see Fisk go talk to Hoffman, and it's just like, that's the wackiest shit. There's another one that I remember of wacky transitions wise is Saw 2, where Eric Matthews gets a call to go to the scene of the Venus flytrap murder, and he gets up, he walks past the wall, and he walks from his apartment straight into the Venus flytrap scene, which I think is another one of those examples of a wacky transition. And again, it's something that a lot of the Saw films have in certain ways, but more so the unconventional editing and sped up, fast-paced, flickery editing is something that they have quite a lot of. But color palette-wise, they are very, very. Here you can see that, especially with the scene with Cecil, it's got a very sort of monotone color palette that means the blood shows up twice as thicker color-wise when Cecil puts his face through the actual thing, and you see the blood on his arms and on his face. It comes up thicker because of the color palette, and that's a bonus. And a lot of the Saw films focus on having these dingy grey color palettes, which really, really do help the film in a lot of ways. but here it's more prevalent than ever color palette wise. I know I'm going into deep film theory analysis style shit, but yeah. It is just, again, it's enjoyable, but again, I've already said my common criticisms of it. I think Rig as a character is someone who's needed to be tested for a while, and the introduction of Strom as a character who I think I like Strom. He's interesting. Obviously, my favorite Saw character is probably Dr. Lawrence Gordon, closely followed by your boy Mark Hoffman. But yeah, again, we also get to see John's first victim of a trap, his first test subject, which is Cecil. After Cecil, unfortunately, is almost entirely responsible for the death of Gideon, his child, because he goes to retrieve his jacket to get drugs from the clinic, and when he leaves, he smashes the door so hard against Jill Tuck's stomach that he kills the baby. He then says to her, "Oh, don't cry." Then he runs out. John sees him. John runs in, sees her on the floor, takes her to the hospital, finds out that they couldn't save the baby, and then he delves deep into this depression that we see him in, and he then obviously decides to test Cecil as his first victim with the knife trap, with the face knives trap, which actually doesn't succeed in the way he wants it to, because the chair collapses, and Cecil was able to stand up, and he's got blood all over his face. And then John Kramer, being the absolute intelligent badass motherfucker he is, Cecil goes for him, and he just simply steps out the way, and behind him there's a cage of barbed wires, and Cecil falls into it and dies. And then we don't see him do it, but we see him holding a scalp and a thing, and he then obviously we can only assume that he then cuts a jigsaw piece out of Cecil. So that's interesting. But yeah, like I said, the twist is very good here, with Hoffman being revealed as the next accomplice, which sets up the next couple of films quite nicely. Is it as good as the first one? Definitely not. Is it as good as 2? Definitely not. Is it better than 3? I think Saw 4 is better than 3, and it's going to be really hard for me to rank these films when we get to it, but I will be doing it at the end of in the Jigsaw review. There'll be the Saw ranking list as well. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful day. Don't forget to check out tomorrow's review of Saw 5, hopefully. And yeah, bye-bye. And don't forget to check out Spiral from the Book of Saw, which is UK cinemas tomorrow, except for Odeon, because fuck you. And is currently showing in US theatres across that country as well. So yeah, if you want to see it in the UK, it's only at View and Cineworld and other off-branch. Basically, it's at any cinema that's not an Odeon cinema at the moment. And they did state on Twitter that they are trying to find a way to show it, working with the partners to show Spiral from the Book of Saw. So unfortunately, that means I can't see it because it's not at my local fucking cinema, and then this one to me is about fucking 5 miles away. So yeah. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful day. Don't forget to check out Spiral from the Book of Saw when it releases. The score by Charlie Klaus is coming out next week. The soundtrack by 21 Savage is out now. The EP, now, of course, I have it with my badass. No, I'm joking, but I do have it. But yeah, thank you guys for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye bye.